We were running headlong to the security guard's room at the airport. What happened? Suddenly a shaggy monster jumped out at us with loud screams. Stop! That was all I managed to shout to the girls. A tense silence hung in the air. Then the monster began to approach us and whisper something about charges? Stop! What have they done to you? You'll just melt when you see him. My classmate Stephanie kept saying. She had already met our new handball coach and was now trying to persuade me to sign up for classes too. No way! Handball was the last thing I needed. But when I saw him, I just couldn't breathe. Was he Apollo himself? Mr. Gibson had just graduated from sports school. His smile literally blinded my eyes. And six-pack abs were seen through his t-shirt. Well, a new crush? Stephanie teased me. And for good reason. After half an hour, I signed up for a new team. I just couldn't take my eyes off Mr. Gibson. But I wasn't the only one who was so smart. A week later, almost all the high school girls wanted to play in our team. But they chose only the players for the first team and the reserve team. I tried my best and got into the first team. I wouldn't give them Mr. Gibson. Soon our team even began to receive prizes. Wow, if it wasn't for Mr. Gibson, we wouldn't have signed up for handball in our lives. One morning, I was driving to the airport in a hurry and couldn't believe my luck. Our team was going to a competition in another state. The day before, I traded another girl for a seat on the plane and now I was going to sit next to the coach. From this spot, I felt pleasant vibrations. But unfortunately, my plan failed. He slept sweetly all the way. We didn't even exchange a few words. We arrived earlier than expected. At first, the whole team was happy. But then it dawned on us. We landed in the wrong city. Stephanie quickly called our manager. After a couple of seconds, she said in a drooping voice that he had mixed up the tickets. The competition was taking place in another city. Everyone around just froze. I quickly googled how long it would take to get from here to the city where the competitions were held. Oh, it was only 3 hours. If we went by car, we would make it. Well done. Mr. Gibson smiled and immediately began to look for car rental services. I broke into a smile. It was a pleasure. After 15 minutes, the whole team was already heading to the rented car. I got into the backseat first and was already getting ready for a fast ride, but then it turned out that Mr. Gibson didn't know how to drive. That was quite a twist. It was good that I passed my license a month ago. However, I never had to travel such long distances before. With trembling hands, I started the car. Calm down, Bibby. Everything will work out. While I was remembering how the car starts, the girls were trying to get in. We didn't have much money with us and we couldn't rent a minivan. Well, after consulting, we decided that the thinnest girl would sit in the back seat. And Mandy, our attacker, would lie on their knees. Mandy didn't fit into in any way and I had to push her in. It was a hard road to hoe. At first, everything was fine. I managed to gain normal speed and maneuver, but soon the team asked me to stop at the nearest diner. Girls are such girls. I didn't want to waste time, but we really needed a break. But then I noticed something strange. When everyone was trying to get into the car again, I suddenly realized that we were missing something. Wait, where's Stephanie? How could we forget the goalkeeper? I wondered, turning the car around. Everyone else, including Mr. Gibson, was just tensely silent. Steph didn't answer her phone. What happened to her at all? I drove like crazy towards the airport. The coach tried to call her, but the phone was unavailable. The girls began to suggest what could have happened to her, and the versions were one scarier than the other. As soon as we returned to the airport, we immediately ran to the security room. We burst in there and saw a tear-stained and shaggy something that looked more like a used washcloth than a person. What the hell? One of the girls blurted out. I immediately slowed down too, but suddenly looked closer. Steph? I asked timidly. A familiar voice came from under the shock of hair. Steph threw her arms around my neck, crying loudly and wailing. I thought I was going to die here, but they don't have chargers. Steph said that she just wanted to go to the bathroom, but the door of the stall jammed as luck would have it. Steph sat there for ages until the cleaning lady freed her. A good reason not to get to the competition. To be honest, during Steph's story, I could barely contain a smile. But soon everyone breathed a sigh of relief and instantly dragged the terrified goalkeeper to the car. But it turned out in the parking lot that we had nowhere to seat the newly found Steph. Our car disappeared. Cold sweat broke out on my forehead. The car was stolen. We had no tickets. The competition would begin very soon. I didn't know what to do, but I didn't have to panic for a long time. Steph decided to do it for me. She suddenly sat down on the asphalt, covered her head with her hands, and burst into tears. Steph mumbled that she only brought us bad luck. Hey, come on. Mr. Gibson sat down next to her on the sidewalk and began to soothe her gently. She's lucky, apparently. I need to burst into tears too. I sat on the sidewalk and stroked Steph's back with one hand, trying to calm her down, and Googled at least some information that could help us with the other. A sudden notification from Instagram took me away from these thoughts. It was from the organizer of our competitions. They started the live of the training camp. I quickly opened the app and couldn't believe my eyes. There were players from the reserve team in beautiful new uniforms instead of us. Next to them, our manager was grinning. Is this a joke? You pig! So he deliberately set it all up to get rid of us. I was shaking with rage. No, he won't get away with it that way. Steph, finish it. We have a problem. I shouted. Steph immediately calmed down. The girls quickly gathered, and even Mr. Gibson straightened out. We'll show you who the real athletes are here. I ran out onto the highway and stuck my hand out. We're not going to give in to them. The main phase of the competition will begin only later in the evening, and we will be there. I frantically waved my hands to all passing cars, but only trucks were rushing past at high speed, and there were taxi drivers who were laughing at us all the time. I'm going to get you. Suddenly, I saw another truck in the distance. This was our last chance. I gathered my thoughts and began to wave as desperately as never before. And the truck stopped. The taxi drivers immediately fell silent. I turned around and winked at Mr. Gibson. A few minutes later, we were already rushing along the highway directly towards the competition. I mentally sped the huge car up and knew one thing. We were a real team. We couldn't be broken by such nonsense. We burst into the locker room at the very last minute. Our reserve team was already preparing to come out. You should have seen their faces. Move over. I deftly commanded with an imperturbable smile. Without saying a word, they parted. Oh, I'm so formidable. Or they were all scared of Stephanie's appearance. The long road clearly didn't do her any good. In any case, that night we became the absolute champions, which was to be expected. After such a warm-up, we could immediately go to the World Training Camp. I have no doubt that we would have defeated everyone there. After the game, our manager disappeared somewhere. I doubt very much that we will ever see him again. And as for the reserve team, they kept coming up to Mr. Gibson guiltily and asking him to forgive them. It was our manager who persuaded them to betray us. Suddenly, Gibson looked up straight into my eyes. What makes you think that you need to apologize only to me? You set up the team, deceived us. Bibi is the captain of the team. Ask her. Wow, what an honor. The girls from the team and I stood and exchanged glances. Yes, we could understand the reserve team. If we had to sit on the bench all the time, we wouldn't be happy either. We forgave the girls and agreed to rotate the team members so that everyone could play. Probably we should have thought about this earlier. It's really a shame to be in the team but at the same time never play. Today we've realized that in order to be one, we need to take into account everyone's opinion. Did you like the video? Subscribe and like it. Support the channel. Thank you!